Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live discussion. My name is Nemer of Mundo Albiceleste.com. I am joined by Osvaldo Godoy, also of Mundo Albiceleste.com. We are here to talk about all the news regarding the Argentina national team, from Paulo Dybala going to Saudi Arabia to what Marcelo Gallardo is doing at River Plate with the World Cup players joining, and the current form of the Argentina national team, some of the players over the weekend. As always, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We tend to get from all around the world. Let us know down below in the chat. And first things first, Osvaldo, how are you? How's everything?
I'm doing well. Very excited because of this new season of the European leagues, of all the Argentinians playing the different leagues, all the moves that we've seen in these last couple of weeks. You mentioned Dybala, River Plate with two, now actually three World Cup players now in their team, counting Armani that was there too. A very interesting week we had.
A very, very interesting weekend. The news keeps coming in. Let's get to the chat, see where everyone's watching us from. We have Corsiniets watching from Auburn, Alabama in the United States. Welcome, welcome. Varun, hello, my friend. If I'm not mistaken, Varun watching us from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. BC, hello, hello. BC, if I'm not mistaken, from NYC, from New York City. Correct me if I'm wrong, BC. And welcome, everybody. Varun beating us to the punch. Boca will soon have Alan Velasco as well. Uh, what do you think about that one as well, though? We were just kind of talking about that up there.
I'm excited. I was kind of anxious because on the other side we were bringing so many players, and in Boca, not really. I mean, we brought a couple, but I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting name. Janet, welcome, Janet from Canada as well. Anthony Garcia from Barcelona, middle of the night, about 4 a.m. There, very, very early morning, late night for Anthony. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Let's kick things off with the big news of the week, pretty much, of the last 7 days, and that is Paulo Dybala, in all likelihood, leaving Roma to go to Saudi Arabia to play with Al-Qadsiah. Let us know in the chat down below. What do you guys think of this move? Osvaldo, I'm going to ask you, what do you think of this?
I don't think it's a positive move. I think most of us think kind of the same way. Uh, him going to the Arabia League, it's not really a desirable move if he wants to continue having chances in the national team. I don't, I don't know. I don't know what you think, Roy. I would everything the chat think, but I think that his chances of being called up with the national team are almost over, are almost done. Especially with players like Solé, uh, that he's now in Roma and he will have a lot of minutes. And well, he didn't play. He was not even in the squad in the last Copa America. So I don't think this is a positive move in his career. More taking into consideration that he's 30, 31. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's not a good move for him, I would say.
All right. Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'm gonna get to the chat. Let's take a look what everyone's saying. BC saying players in Saudi Arabia should not be considered for the national team, and I'm gonna touch on that. And it's kind of something that a lot of people have been talking about. Paul watching us from Jamaica. Hello, Paul. Welcome, my dear friend. Santiago, hello. We're doing great. Hope you're doing well as well. Thank you for joining. Anthony talking about Di Maria retiring. Dybala would have more opportunities in the national team. I don't get why he wants to go. And Varun saying it kind of sucks. I watched parts of the Roma game and realized that Dybala is still essential to them. Bad for his national team too. Look, I want to preface this by saying nothing against the Saudi Arabian league, absolutely at all. I understand why players are going. The league is growing, and the talent is slowly growing in the league as well. With that said, I don't believe it's up to maybe the standards or the level of the top European leagues, the top 5 European leagues. So with that said, him going there, I'm surprised, especially because of what Varun kind of mentioned and Anthony Garcia mentioned as well with Di Maria retiring. I mentioned this before. I said I don't believe Di Maria is going to be playing at the 2026 World Cup. People said I was crazy. He's going to be 32. He's going to be great. This and that. I don't see it happening. He wasn't picked for the Copa America. I don't think he's going to be picked for the World Cup. With that said, maybe that's something that played in Dybala's mind. Maybe because he did not get picked for the Copa America, and in all likelihood, he thought, "Hey, I might not get picked for the World Cup. This is a big money move. I'm going to go over to Saudi Arabia." I don't know. Would you still pick him for the national team, Osvaldo, if you were to go to Saudi Arabia?
That's a good question because you're seeing a lot of players going to the Saudi Arabian League, and although it's not as competitive as the top five European leagues, you still have, for example, N'Golo Kante from France, who was playing there, and then he went to the Euros and was started in France. He was playing really well, so I wouldn't be that surprised if in the next couple of years the players that go to Saudi Arabia that are top are still playing even for the top national teams, because we've seen some examples in the Euros and even in the Copa America. I don't think, taking into consideration the Argentina squad and that Dybala was not, you were right what you said. I think that also went into Dybala's mind because he was not in the 26 player squad that Scaloni took to the Copa America after being one of the best players in the Serie A. So, yeah, I guess that went through his mind, and I really don't see him being selected again if he stays there in the Saudi Arabian League for a couple of years.
Yeah, I don't see him being selected. I mean, already with Roma, he wasn't getting selected all the time. He is 30, so he's still technically young. That's not old, obviously. But when you look at the younger players coming up, most specifically Matias Soulé, who also plays with Roma, you have to think that Dybala's chances with the national team are maybe dwindling a little bit, right? They're going down. You mentioned Kante, if I'm not mistaken, Laporte for Spain as well. He played well. So that's not to say that Saudi Arabia doesn't have a good league or good players, but considering Dybala's age, that he is 30, he's no longer in his early 20s, considering the talent that Argentina has and considering the depth that Argentina has, and the fact that he's already struggling to get in the national team, I don't see how this helps him getting into the Argentina national team, in my opinion. Let's get to the chat. Let's see what everyone's saying about this. Janet saying, very surprised, thought he had more years in Europe, as did I. I think he had a couple more years as well. Santiago saying, if it's true what the media says about Dybala and that he goes because I don't want to compete against Soulé for being in the starting 11, I don't understand why Scaloni let him out of the Copa America. That's the other thing. Why did Scaloni not pick him for the Copa America? I guess we'll truly never know. However, and maybe we spoke about this last time, Osvaldo, maybe we didn't, but maybe ultimately selecting Garnacho or selecting Carboni ahead of Dybala at the Copa America for the present and the future actually helps the national team. The fact that he picked a younger player that has that experience now of having went to the Copa America in place of Dybala. Maybe it kind of worked out in that sense. See Janet saying, yeah, it does look as if Scaloni had previously spoken to Dybala about being with the national team in September for the World Cup qualifiers. Paul's asking, James Rodriguez, if I'm not mistaken, plays in Sao Paulo, in Brazil. If I'm not mistaken, I think he plays there. And Anthony saying he would have picked Dybala at Copa America even though we won. So this was the big news. Very surprising. Nothing is official regarding Dybala. It's going to be interesting to see what ultimately ends up happening if he goes and Scaloni does pick him. Then maybe that opens the door in general to other players, to other Argentina national team players going over to Saudi Arabia if he does get picked. But
yes, I mean, the rumors are, and there's it's almost done. Although he played today a couple of minutes, he also posted something on Instagram with Matias Soulé. But yeah, it looks like this move is gonna happen. And again, it would be weird. It wouldn't be very consistent if Scaloni choose him playing the Saudi Arabian League and he didn't choose him when he was a very important player in Roma. It wouldn't make that much sense. That's why I think that this move, like we realized in the last Copa America, that Dybala, even though he might play really well in a really top league, is not of Scaloni's favorite. That's the truth because we saw it. And now it's even. I think it would be even worse for Dybala's chances.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. I agree with that, Osvaldo. We'll see. It would be inconsistent of Scaloni. It would be surprising from Scaloni if he were to pick Dybala, who, if he does end up going to Saudi Arabia, and in all likelihood, it looks like he will be. Another player or players, if we want to move forward a little bit, not just with Dybala, but a couple of players are making the jump from Europe back to Argentina. Not necessarily back to the clubs that they used to play at, but in Argentina, Marcos Acuna, Germán Patzela, Fabricio Bustos, and Maxi Mesa, all to Marcelo Gallardo's River Plate. And we could potentially even add Angel Correa as well to this list. He's wanted apparently by Gallardo. Marcelo Gallardo building a very good team with World Cup champions.
So good. I'm getting scared. I'm a Boca Juniors fan, and this team scares me. River Plate needed to improve their defense. They brought three really good players. I mean, Petzela, Bustos, and Mesa are already River Plate players. Acuna is set to join in the next couple of days. There's some rumors, as you said, about Angel Correa. The truth is that River Plate is preparing to winning this Copa Libertadores, and yeah, I mean, Acuna used to play in Racing. Petzela, yeah, used to play in River Plate, but then Bustos used to play in Independiente, Mesa too in Independiente. And I also want to ask you this, Roy, because on one hand, we saw that in the last Copa America and the last World Cup, Argentina only took one player from the Argentina first division. That was Armania. He was not even the starter goalkeeper. So I really have some mixed feelings about how these moves are going to affect, especially Acuna and Pesela.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. It's a very good question in terms of how it's going to affect them. I think if we look at it, and let everybody in the chat, please let us know, of course, what do you all think of these moves of all these guys going back to River Plate, and would you still pick them for the national team, as Osvaldo's mentioning here? I think someone like Petzela, if we start with him, I think his time is really coming to an end with the senior national team. He might get picked in September, maybe even October, but I think beyond that, he's going to be picked less and less. We might see more of Senesi. We've already started to see Lisandro Martinez getting a look ahead of Nicolas Otamendi. So, I think someone like Petzela, his time is probably up with the national team because we do have that depth in center backs. Leo Balerdi as well, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Someone like Acuna, though, if you look at Acuna, he's still kind of the starter when Tagliafico is not there at left back. So it's either Nicolas Tagliafico or Marcos Acuna as left back. I think Acuna maybe continues to get picked up until potentially Valentin Barco is ready to get picked. I would think so. We'll see what's going to happen with Acuna. It's surprising that nobody in Europe wants him. I know he was being linked with Aston Villa for a while, but Acuna is one that might still get selected with Argentina. Bustos probably less so, but then again, Argentina is not too deep at right back, so who knows? And then Maxi Mesa, I don't think Mesa gets anywhere near the national team. And Correa's time with Argentina is in all likelihood done as well. I like Correa, but I think his time is done with Argentina.
Yeah, I overall agree, especially with Acuna. Maybe Valentin Barco, who's still playing in Europe, can have some more chances. And on one hand, I really think that the Argentina first division, there's a big gap, and every year I think it's even bigger because of the economic situation between the Argentina league and the top 5 European leagues. But it's also true that Gallardo, one of the main attributes that he has is how he can improve players and how can he get the full potential of players. So that's something that I'm very confident about him and about all these players, especially those that really have chances to be in the national team, like Acuna, who knows, maybe Pesela too, and Angel Correa, to make them play good. Because in the last couple of years when Gallardo was in River Plate, the team played really, really well. And there's a lot of players that you see with Gallardo playing a huge level. They would go to Europe, and maybe in Europe they didn't play that well. And that's because of the influence of a coach like Gallardo. So that's why I was telling you that I have kind of mixed feelings. but I think in the end, with Gallardo as a coach, Acuna can play maybe even better than what he was playing, because he was not really playing much in Sevilla.
Yeah, that's true. And we mentioned Gallardo was obviously a very good coach. The other thing as well, actually, and I'll get to the chat in just a second. We'll see what everyone's saying. The other thing as well is we've kind of seen this in the past at times is, let's say, World Cup qualifiers are coming up and, knock on wood, but let's say somebody gets injured. Someone that's selected gets injured. You have kind of that emergency backup in Argentina, right? Not someone that has to fly over from Europe and get permission from the club to fly over from Europe. Someone really in Argentina. So if a center back, knock on wood, but if a center back goes down, you have Petzela. If you need a left back, you have Acuna. If you need a forward, you have Correa. So Argentina will have that hub of backups, let's say, in case they need somebody last second with the national team. And playing under Gallardo is a good thing. I think he's a good coach. And his trophies back it up.
Yeah. Gallardo returned to the club only 3 matches ago. He tied 2, then he won 1. The team is not playing great, but of course it will take a little bit of time until he can put the idea into the players and make the team play a little bit better. There were a lot of criticism with Martin de Michelis, which was the coach just a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully for the Argentina national team, not for me because I'm a Boca Junior fan, hopefully they start playing better as a team with Acuna and all these new players.
Hopefully. Let's get to the chat. Santiago talking about Euro River. I mean, kind of. Corsiniat saying, don't care except for Correa. Varun talking about Petzela, saying Leo Balerdi of Marseille should be picked instead of Petzela. We'll talk about him. Corsiniat's also mentioning Acuna was so good under Scaloni. I think he still has a lot to offer to the national team, at least in terms of experience. Janet saying River Plate for Argentina is becoming similar to Inter Miami for Barcelona. And Santiago saying, I agree. I think that too, but Petzela, I don't think so. After the last Copa America, many players will be evaluated for Scaloni, and that's very, very true. We're seeing that change in players, that cycle that's ending. So we'll see what's going to happen with Petzela. Kind of to add to Janet's comment, I mean, this was, back in the 90s where mostly River Plate fans, but River fans called, the national team, La Selección, they would call it Riversión, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the national team players either played for River or came up from River. So we're kind of seeing that a little bit, but in reverse towards the end of their career.
We kind of stopped seeing that recently, basically because of the gap between the Argentina first division and the teams in Europe. Especially now, the players that are playing really well in Argentina are sell really quickly. We saw today Boca Juniors was playing Anselmino, the player that's going to Chelsea. He's only 18 years old. He played an incredible match. But yeah, it was, I think, one of the first couple of matches he started with Boca Juniors. And that's something you're seeing more and more, That's why the national team doesn't have much players playing in the first division.
Yeah, very true. And then you have someone like, who's moving in January, but Claudio Echeverri, who's still very young, and he's going to be going. The gap, obviously, in, the Argentine league in general and the economic situation doesn't help, but there is that gap. And I think, as you mentioned, that's part of the reason why we don't see too many local league players starting for Argentina, or at least being part of the team. I mean, you mentioned, I think Armani was the only one from the local league that was part of the Copa America team, and he didn't play. He was back.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited about the list or the squad for the qualifiers, because I'm sure that there's gonna be a lot of surprises. You were talking to me before the live about you were watching a little bit of the Real Madrid against Mallorca, and I didn't watch the game, but that Pablo Maffeo, the Spanish but nationalized Argentinian, did a good match defending Vinicius. So maybe, who knows, he will be collab. So there's a lot of surprises that might happen, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely. I watched part of that match. I watched mostly the second half. Scaloni was there between Mallorca and Madrid. Now, Scaloni was there for maybe one of two reasons or both. Mallorca is his team. That's kind of where where he played at, and it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's where he lives in Spain as well. And then the other part is Maffeo too. Played decent from what I saw in the second half versus Madrid. He got picked once. He never played, but he got picked in the November World Cup qualifiers versus Uruguay and Brazil, but he didn't play in those matches. If I'm not mistaken, it was those two sets. But it's going to be interesting. Argentina play on September 5th, so in about 2.5 weeks or so. The list should generally be out, I think, by the end of this week or next weekend. So that's going to be an interesting one to see, and it's going to be weird without Di Maria. Not seeing Di Maria's name there. That's going to be a bit odd.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's based on what I was reading. That's confirmed. Di Maria not only has an injury, but also there were no plans of him. Based on what I read from the journalist Gaston Edul, that rumor of him playing a couple of minutes against Chile, it's not really real. It's not really a possibility. But yeah, I think Di Maria is gonna be with the team, and they're gonna do a kind of a farewell there in the stadium at the Monumental.
Yeah. I don't know if that's ultimately gonna end up happening. Maybe just do a separate testimonial match alone. Who knows? Or maybe next year's Finalissima. Who knows?
Yeah.
But what we do know is Messi should be ready for that game, for those games in September versus Chile and Colombia. He should be ready. I think he might get a couple of minutes for Inter Miami in their last game before Argentina plays Chile.
We'll see that. That's gonna be on Saturday. Inter Miami plays on Saturday. They are out of the League's Cup, so now they just have the MLS, where they're first in their side of the MLS, the conference. That's what I was trying to say. And the truth is that Messi haven't started training with the team. He's just been doing exercises in the gym and things separate from the team. So it's really it's in a question mark whether he will play next Saturday or not. And yeah, it's gonna be. I'm sure Scaloni is just gonna call Messi and ask him, "Hey, how do you feel?" And it's gonna be more of a Messi decision rather than Scaloni making a decision. But there's a lot of possibilities that maybe Messi doesn't even participate in the match in Saturday.
That's it. Maybe he doesn't. We don't know that. And maybe when he does get picked for Argentina, maybe he plays in one of the matches and not in the other. Right? Argentina can play and can win without Messi. They showed it in the last match in the Copa America final.
And we're first in the qualifiers. There's not really
there's no reason to risk it.
No, at all. What I see, if Messi is really returning from the injury, and this is not information, it's just what I think that might happen, is him starting from the bench, especially this match on Saturday with Inter Miami, trying out, see how he feels, and based on that, he will decide, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what happens too. Maybe he gets some minutes on Saturday, and then he flies out to Argentina. All right. Well, we talked a little bit about Inter Miami and how they're going to play on Saturday. We had the start of the top 5 European leagues, top 5 in Europe starting, and we got some stuff. We had a penalty kick save from Geronimo Rulli. We had Emiliano Martinez getting a win, and some other stuff as well. Osvaldo, what's going on with some of the players?
Well, we also had Leonardo Valerdi, who was the captain of Olympique Marseille in their 5-1 win against Brest. I guess that it seems that Valerdi is going to be the captain of Marseille this season, which is really good. It's something really positive, more if you take into consideration that he is not a French player. Usually the captains are the ones of those countries, So that's really good. He got a really good season last year. I think that a lot of people are asking for him, even in Mundo's chat and everywhere. They're asking for Valerdi. I think he has a really good chance to at least be called up. Then you had Valentin Castellanos, who scored for Lazio in their 3-1 win versus Venezia. And I want to ask you, Roy, because Castellanos also is having, he had a decent season last year. Now it seems that he's going to be a starter for Lazio. Do you see him having some sort of chances or not really to be called up with the national team?
To be honest, for Tati Castellanos, maybe not so much. I was excited when he made the jump over from MLS, and then he went to, I think, Girona, and now with Lazio. I don't know. I mean, when you look at Lautaro's form and you look at Julian Alvarez and hopefully what he ends up doing with Atletico Madrid, and then you look at some of the other younger players coming up, I don't know if Castellanos does end up getting a chance with the national team. Maybe, knock on wood, hopefully not. But if there's an injury or something, unless he really turns it on and he hits 15 to 20 goals this season, I don't really see him as part of the national team.
I agree. I don't think that really Castellanos, Beltran have chances. They can score a lot of goals, and I think that Lautaro Martinez and Julian Alvarez are the players, the strikers of the national team, and of course they earn it. But yeah, who knows? They have to be ready because injuries can happen. If one of the
Yep.
strikers is not fit, they're gonna call up another striker. And I don't know what's your opinion, Roy, but maybe Castellanos, maybe Beltran. Who else can be there as a striker for
I mean,
Argentina?
for Argentina, outside of Lautaro and Julian, I mean, you have Castellanos, maybe Simeone, but maybe not Giovanni Simeone, Lucas Beltran. Beltran, I think, is like the third on that list because he's been
Okay.
selected a couple of times for Argentina. Unless Scaloni surprises everybody and goes for Gondu. But which could happen. Who knows? Who knows? That could happen. But Argentina are lucky and fortunate enough that we do have world-class forwards. Not every team can have Lautaro and Julian, right? Two world-class players on the team. So other than that, I mean, Simeone, Tati Castellanos, maybe Beltran, but that's about it. I am excited. I know you mentioned Balerdi, and I'm excited because this is his fourth or fifth season with Marseille. As crazy as this sounds, I remember he joined them during COVID from Borussia Dortmund. He had a very good season last time. I'm excited. I'm hoping he gets picked this time around. I did not know that he captained them. I watched the highlights of their match versus Brest, I believe, where Geronimo Rulli saved a penalty. A very good penalty, by the way, similar to the one that Martinez saved versus Ecuador with one hand. Very similar. One-handed save, very good, but I didn't know Balerdi captained them. I didn't realize that. So I'm excited to see Balerdi. Hopefully he gets called up. Senesi is another one. But then you have someone like Emiliano Martinez, who had a very good save, two good saves for Aston Villa versus Guido Rodriguez's West Ham United. Has to be said, Guido, I watched that match. I don't know if you ended up watching a lot of it. I don't know if
A
the
little bit.
chat saw of it. I don't think Guido played particularly well. I mean, it's his first match with the club in the new season, but I thought Dibu played well. It's still early in the season, very early. It's first match, but Guido is going to have to step it up, I think, if he wants to remain with the national team.
Yeah, first match of Guido in the Premier League. Basically, it's a different league, a different pace, I would say. So yeah, I agree with you. We'll see. We'll see. Especially with other players in that position that are really playing well, Varela and
Yeah,
Paredes, who had a really good game in the final against Colombia. So we'll see. Then yeah, you were talking about Senesi, who didn't start for
no,
Barcelona, but because he was not even in the bench because he's
injured,
injured. Yeah, yeah, he got a knock
injured.
in a friendly game just like a week ago, but I think he will be like he will start the next game.
Yeah, no, so Senesi is a starter for them. It's just
Yeah,
he
yeah.
has a knock, a bit of an injury, and that's why he wasn't picked.
Yes,
So,
and then yeah, Gianetti, who scored for Udinese in the 1-1 draw versus Bologna. Udinese, who was Nehuen Perez, who was also Martin Payero. Roberto Pereira is not really playing for them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I was reading today. I think he went to another club. I don't remember which one, to be honest. And then in Bologna, well, Santiago Castro started. He's only 19, 20 years old, and he's starting
yeah,
to play more for Bologna. He scored a goal in the Coppa Italia just a week ago with Bologna. So a lot of Argentinians that
a
have
lot.
played this weekend. Well, Enzo Fernandez against Manchester City. Then in Napoli, they lost 3-0 against Verona. Giovanni Simeone started. Well, in Roma, Soule and and Dybala will then enter later in the
Yeah,
game.
second half.
We have a lot of Argentinians that were playing this weekend.
A lot, all around the world, all around the world. I did not watch the Roma game, so I can't comment on that. I know Paredes, I think, was suspended because of the last match of last season, something. I don't think he played. Varun's talking. Enzo was shocking today. Kovacic flied past him. Lautaro not at his best, but expected. Sule looked decent. Belletti looked great. Debo looked all right. Yeah, Enzo had a bit of an on and off game. I mostly think it's the team performance kind of bringing him down. He was not good on that second goal for Manchester City, has to be said. He wasn't able to really catch up to Kovacic, who's already not the fastest to begin with. No disrespect to him. But overall, I thought Enzo played decent versus City. Lautaro, I didn't watch any any of the intermatch today, so I can't really comment on that. But glad to hear Sule looked decent and Valerdi great as well. And let's take a look at Paul's asking, what about Perez? Do you think he stands a chance of being called up as a defender? What do you think? Perez is an odd one because he tends to play well. He's pretty reliable, but Scaloni is not picking him. He's not picking him.
No, and maybe it has to do with the team he's in, I would say, because Udinese is not really. They struggled last season with relegation. And when Perez had some good performances, maybe he wants or he prefers a player who is in a better team, a team that fights for the top positions, And again, we're talking about a national team that in all of the positions have really great players. So maybe deciding between Senesi, Nehuen Perez, or Valeri or other defenders are just some of those little details,
Yeah, no, that's true. You're probably right. It maybe depends a little bit on the team. Rose Barco was not selected to play for Brighton. Should he consider moving to some other teams? Very good question, Rose, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the questions and all the comments, everybody, by the way, and hit the like button and subscribe button if you haven't already. It's funny. I was going through the starting 11s yesterday, and I saw Barco didn't start for Brighton. Alcaraz didn't start for Southampton. Senesi obviously injured. And Barco didn't end up playing at all, which kind of surprised me. He didn't end up playing a single minute. He wasn't substituted on for Brighton versus Everton, even at 3-0. I mean, they won 3-0. He wasn't picked.
I know, and something that surprised me too, I'm trying to look it up, but I'm not able to find it. But the left back that started for Brighton was a 19-year-old left back.
And Hinchelwood.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, he's 19 years old. Barco is now 20. So you would understand the coach trying to start someone more experienced than a 20-year-old. But if you're starting a 19-year-old, it's weird,
Yeah, no, it is. I don't know if it's something in training. I don't know if Barco still needs a lot more to develop. Again, it's the first match of the season. This doesn't mean much. It's a long season. You have trophies to play for. You have injuries. You have dips of form. So I don't doubt that Barco is going to get his chance. But I would have liked to have seen him get some time, especially at 3-0. Maybe give him a bit of more experience in the Premier League. But unfortunately, did not happen.
That left back position in the Argentina team, I would say is the one that there's more doubts about because, you have Tagliafico and now Acuna, who's going to the Argentina First Division. Barco, who is supposed to be the future, is not really having much minutes. And then you don't have much more.
You don't. You really, really don't for Argentina. Maybe Soler, maybe, but he's still very young. He's still very young from Lanús. He was picked for the Olympics. I thought he played well for the Olympics. But I don't know. It's you have Tagliafico, but if something happens to Tagliafico and Acuna is struggling with fitness often, and you have Barco that's not really playing for Brighton. The two fullbacks, left back and right back for Argentina, I think are the two positions where we lack the most depth. I think.
I agree.
let's get to the chat. David, thank you for joining us, guys. God bless. Love from Western Sydney, Australia. Dale Argentina. Much love over to you as well. I believe it's probably noon on Monday for you right now, David. So thank you for joining us and spending your Monday midday with us. Master Azor, welcome. Doing well, my friend. Thank you. How are you? Thank you for joining us. But yeah, we looked at Dybala and his situation with the national team. Time will tell in about maybe a week's time, 1 week to a week and a half, if he's going to get picked for Argentina for September in the qualifiers. Maybe he does, and then if he goes to Australia, if he goes to Saudi Arabia, maybe he doesn't get picked for October. But time will tell for Dybala, and then we'll see what's going to happen with Acuna and Correa if they end up going to River Plate. And we have one more game in the Premier League. I know we're kind of doing a roundup, but we still have Leicester City versus Tottenham Hotspur. So Facundo Buonanotte of Leicester City versus Christian Romero and maybe Gio Lo Celso at Tottenham left to go on Monday. So one more match involving Argentine players in the Premier League. And Rana, much love from West Bengal, India. Thank you for joining us as well. Question. Go ahead, sorry, Osvaldo. Yeah.
No, and then tomorrow we also have Villarreal against Atletico Madrid, where you can have potentially the debut of Julian Alvarez, who is expected to start from the bench. He's not expected to start. But then, De Paul, Molina, Angel Correa, of course, everyone coached by Diego Simeone. So, an Atletico Madrid full of Argentinians, as always.
As always, especially under Simeone, and one that I'm going to be paying a lot more attention to this season. Just the Argentine players, and you want to see Alvarez. You know he's going to get that starting spot. He probably won't start. He hasn't really had any time off this, since the end of last season. It's that to the Copa America to the Olympics, but hopefully he gets the goal. Hopefully he gets to play and he gets a goal.
Yeah, and tomorrow also Juventus plays, and I want to talk about Juventus because there's some rumors also that Nicolás González might go from Fiorentina to Juventus, which I would consider to be a really good move for him.
I think it would be a very good move. I do agree. I would like to see him maybe outside of Italy. I don't know why. I think he would fit. I think he would fit the physicality of the Premier League, even though every time he's able to take hits. He's very physical. Or in Spain, just because the inconsistency with Juventus off the pitch as much as on the pitch, I don't like too much. But hey, move to Juventus could be an improvement for him, of course, at least in terms of challenging for the league title, right? And maybe one last thing as well. Rose, talking about Enzo Barrenechea. Any chance with Aston Villa? He was not selected for the first game. We spoke about him in our last live discussion. I think Enzo, it's a long season. I don't see him being a starter, but I think he could definitely get some minutes here and there.
No, especially because Aston Villa would play the Champions League, so maybe if the team rotates, he might have some minutes, and I think that's why they brought him, not to be a starter, but more to be a part of the rotation,
Part of the team, part of the squad. With that said, Osvaldo, anything else before we close things up?
Just excited to see all these players moving to these new clubs. I think that's one of the most exciting things about following the Argentinian players. I'm gonna be very excited to see Julian Alvarez tomorrow having his first minutes in Atletico Madrid, and just seeing the players with other jerseys. It's great. Hopefully, these moves are for better for him and for all of them, and that Scaloni has a good problem of not being able to, or being able to choose between a lot of players that are doing great in their leagues.
Yes, absolutely. I'm the same thing. I'm in the same boat. It's definitely exciting. It's exciting to see all these changes, and what's going to happen with Scaloni. Is he going to pick those players or not? Their current form, and still only the first game into the season, and there's still already a lot to talk about. But we're going to be talking a lot more. We still have a lot of stuff coming up on the YouTube channel. So hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. and hit the notifications button if you haven't already, to be the first person notified as soon as a new video drops. We're gonna try to do these weekly recaps. Once a week. I'll definitely try and do it. Talk about everything. I hope everybody could join us. Once more, a big thank you to everybody joining us live. If you're watching us on repeat on YouTube, let us know in the comments. What do you think about the players? What do you think about Dybala? What do you think about the qualifiers coming up? And where are you watching us from? Let us know down below in the comments section. Once more, my name is Nemer of Mundo Albiceleste.com. I'm joined by Osvaldo Godoy, also of Mundo Albiceleste.com. Until next time, take care, everybody. Goodbye.